Welcome to Breaking Ties, Is Divorce the Answer? This is your go-to source for practical advice and support when considering if a divorce is the right answer for you. Join us each weekday for a quick chat where we'll uncover a variety of topics such as child custody, property division, and self-care. Together, we'll explore the emotional, financial, and legal aspects of divorce and help you find the best path forward for you and your family. Here is your host and Certified Divorce Financial Analyst professional, Mike Fulkerson.
Welcome to the Breaking Ties interview series. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional. And today we're going to talk with another professional who assists those in getting through the divorce process. And actually, this is more on the fun side. This is after the divorce for the most part, where we're going to get a lot of questions answered on the travel topic. Now, with me today is Kristina Hughes. Kristina is a luxury travel designer with Travel A Latte. What a cool name that is. And she is going to share some fantastic information with us. Welcome to the podcast, Kristina. How are you today?
Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So on day one, I always like to have you share a little bit about yourself because we're going to be here for 5 days and we're going to have different questions each day. So everybody's going to come back and check it out. So give us a little glimpse into who Kristina is.
I am a travel designer, go by travel designer, travel agent, travel advisor, there's lots of names, but I actually came into this role by moving to Europe for a year and a half with my family. We went over for a year and a half. We explored 30 countries in that time, traveling almost every weekend, and really fell in love with travel. So when we moved back, I left the career that I was in before and decided I wanted to help people plan travel and do the same things that I was able to do because I just fell in love with it. So that's me. I have two kids that are 4 and 6, so they've been to over 30 countries themselves. And
Wow, that is remarkable, and that's very cool. I mean, the fact that you've seen all these places and experienced a lot of different things and stuff, and that you're able to bring that and help people with their travel and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to learning from you and seeing what you're going to be able to share with our listeners.
Awesome. Yes. And I'm a specialist in Europe. I'm a specialist in traveling with young kids. My daughter was a year and a half when we went. She was toted around a lot. And then now, trying to explore more of the U.S. Because we've seen more countries than states. So
yeah, there you go.
And then, hey,
not too many people can say that. All right. So really, we're going to start like at the beginning, okay? And so when we look at someone who's recently divorced or been divorced for a while, but really hasn't gone on any trips, where do we start? How do they begin?
Really, I think it starts with what you're interested in. People have vacation time and they want to go on vacation. It really starts with, okay, what are you interested in seeing or doing? Do you just want to completely do nothing and just sit on a beach? Then, hey, let's find a coastal town for you to kind of hang out and relax. Or do you want everything to be included, like an all-inclusive, go to the Caribbean and just have an all-inclusive with a kids club for kids for, just to kind of have it all taken care of. Or do you love the mountains? Do you love hiking? Do you want to explore a new culture? I mean, there's so many different paths that you can go when it comes to travel, and everybody's preferences are different. So I think, the first part is just figuring out what you would be interested in.
Yeah, I think so. And part of that process for those, once they've finished the divorce process, has been to kind of rediscover themselves. And so, perhaps someone doesn't actually know what they wanted to do, and now they're getting a chance to really do some of those things that perhaps they heard about, read about, saw about. And this whole divorce process is allowing them to do that. So one of the things I always share with my listeners on the podcast segments is that, divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And so I want to, get a feel from you on how do you think travel can bring something to a divorced person? What can it do to help them through the process?
So I think travel is something that can really help you to discover yourself and your passions, and just get you out of your comfort zone, which really helps you to grow in yourself, your confidence. If you're traveling alone, you're learning, to navigate life and a new way. Traveling in a new way. If you're traveling with kids, you have that memory with them. I think that it's really an important piece, traveling and just getting away. And again, that's however you see that. So, I can talk vaguely, travel, but that is, just going to a beach and just relaxing and enjoying the scenery. Or it could be, going to Europe and seeing multiple countries and exploring and really, diving in there. So, and by doing that, you're really getting out of your comfort zone, and kind of stretching yourself. But it's a really good thing to do. And I know that I had never been to Europe before we moved to Europe for a year and a half. Packed the bags, moved over, had never set foot in another country in Europe, and just going from culture to culture and navigating the train system and all those things was something that really shaped me and grew me as a person and my confidence. And also opened my eyes to the fact that everything that's going on in my world is just what's happening in my world, in my city, in my state. But what about, in the other places in the United States? What about, this country over here and this culture over here? And there's so much in the world. And I think that when you get out of what you're, used to, it really just opens your eyes to just so many other things. And that was something that was beneficial too with children as well, was, seeing the world through their eyes. So I think that it's really beneficial to kind of step out and to explore and travel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the good driving points is just the fact that, one, you got something to look forward to after the divorce is over, kind of thing, and two, it's kind of a reset or a refresh opportunity for the individual. And because it is hard, it is challenging. So sometimes you just need to kind of refresh and take a step back and use it to reflect and stuff. And so I think those are very great points. All right. Well, this concludes the first day of the interview. I want to have everybody join us again tomorrow as we continue our discussion on traveling and what that entails and where can you go and how does that fit into your life kind of situation. So Kristina and I would like to thank you for joining us today on Breaking Ties, the interview series. Should you have any questions for Kristina, her contact information will actually be in the description. You can reach out to her. She's happy to chat and see what she can do for you. Remember, divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. See you tomorrow. Take care. Hello and welcome back to day 2 of the Breaking Ties interview series. And we're going to talk with a professional who assists those either before or after the divorce process. And they're going to answer some great questions, maybe some common questions you have or more advanced questions. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, and with me today is Kristina Hughes. And Kristina is a luxury travel designer with Travel A Latte. So we're going to get some really great information like we did yesterday. And if you haven't listened to yesterday's episode, please go back and listen to it. Kristina introduces herself a little bit more in detail and how she got into travel. And, we had some really good questions. So you're going to want to go back and check that out. So welcome back to the podcast, Kristina. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm great. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, I know the information yesterday was fantastic. It really was. And so I'm looking forward to today's questions. And, yesterday, we chatted a little bit about traveling solo after divorce and kind of some thoughts on where to begin. When we're what if someone's divorced with kids, and now they're traveling with kids by themselves? Would our destinations change? Where do we start with planning for, say, a family type of trip, but it's, mom and kids or dad and kids?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and something that I get all the time as far as just even traveling with kids. So I'm a specialist in designing trips for families and for traveling with kids, and that's a common question. Anyways, is I can't even take my kid to a restaurant for more than an hour. How am I supposed to take them to Europe or to another destination? Like it just seems so overwhelming. And so I think one tip is, have somebody in your pocket that you can help, that can help you, is something obviously I'd recommend as a travel advisor, because, it is scary and hard to if you're not used to it, to figure out how to do it all yourself. And something that for me as a travel advisor, I am not one that just puts together an itinerary and sends it to you and then you are off on your own and you have to still figure a lot out. Like I'm there through the whole process and can kind of help guide. And if you're in Europe and if something happens, like a train's canceled, things like that, you have someone to contact. So that's a lot of peace of mind, I think, especially if you're traveling solo and with kids. But I think it's the same way of traveling by yourself. Knowing where you want to go is kind of, what are you dreaming of? What do you feel like you need as the adult, right? And anywhere you take your kids is going to be great. You can make it great. So again, if it's a beach vacation, if it's a mountain vacation, if it's a international vacation, I think that any of those are great with kids. And just really focusing on different activities that are kid friendly and things like that. I think any of those, there's a lot of options, but it may feel scary, but it is doable with the right tools. And I think the memories that you make with your kid on vacation is different than what you would have, if you're not. And I strongly feel that way. I've noticed myself, when I'm on vacation, I am a different person because I'm unplugged. I don't have, oh, I got to do the dishes and I got to do the laundry and I got to do this and that and this and that. And I have this bill that needs paid and I have this and that. You have so many demands on a day-to-day basis between work and home and kids and, run the kids to this sport and that and all these things. But when you're traveling, you're with your child and you're in the new place and you're just able to enjoy it and make those new memories. And I think for me that's something that I think is really important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, being able to be in the moment when you're on vacation is a whole lot different than being in the moment when you're in your day-to-day kind of just flow. Because you got your routines and you got your patterns and you got your things and all the stuff. But when you're on vacation, you don't have all that overarching pieces of life that are just intruding on the day-to-day kind of thing. You get to actually spend time with your kids, enjoy them and stuff. And after divorce, that's very important, is to keep that connection to your children, whether you're the custodial parent or you're the parent that moved out. And so you want to make sure that you spend that time wisely. Now, we have the trip planned and we're flying to a fantastic destination. It's time to pack for the trip. I know this is kind of crazy. It's tricky with kids. Can you share some thoughts on what we should bring on the plane versus what we should, check into luggage kind of thing?
Yeah, so I have a lot of tips and tricks that I only have so much time for right now, but yes, I think that it depends on the age of the kids. If you have older kids and teenagers, packing is not very difficult compared to when you have small kids, toddlers, infants. It can be definitely a challenge. I traveled over 30 countries with a 1.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I know. And I got obviously good at having a system of, this is the packing list and this, if you have a packing list, you just go by that. But yeah, car seats and strollers and things like that are things, you have to consider. Are you driving there? Are you going to be using public transportation? How are you getting around? There'll be a lot of considerations with that. But having activities on you, have a backpack and have activities for the kids to do. So we always traveled with, little sticker books and a couple of the kids' favorite toys. My son loves Legos, so he always has a couple little Legos in his bag that he can just play with. Or my daughter with a couple little Barbies, or something like that they enjoy, they would play with at home. Bring those things. Come prepared with multiple little activities that you can kind of change it up. And there are some really good options. There's a from the dollar section in Target, there are these little blocks that you can get that have literally traveled all over Europe with us. And the kids still play with them. And they are the best $1 spent ever because the kids just love them. And all ages of kids that of our friends have used them as well. So, just coming prepared, having things with you. Luggage wise, if you're traveling checked versus carry on, I always recommend having your basics. So your medication, toothbrush, a change of clothes, those kinds of things, having something in your bag, just in case luggage were to get lost. But yeah, otherwise, again, I could share a lot of tips.
Yeah, and tips are great, and having a resource is great. I like the fact that you mentioned earlier that if people have an issue or something, you're available to help them and get through whatever challenges they may be facing on their trip. And while it may be far and few between, it's still a nice peace of mind for anyone traveling. So I think that's a great part of the service you provide.
Yeah, definitely.
So this actually concludes the second of our 5 days. So I want to have everybody check out day one. Also, encourage you to join us tomorrow as we continue our discussion on travel and divorce. So Kristina and I would like to thank you again for joining us today on this episode of Breaking Ties, the interview series. Should you have any questions for Kristina, her information is going to be in the description. You can reach out to her. She is happy to assist. Divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Hi, and welcome to our third day of the Breaking Ties interview series. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional. And the interview series is where we talk with other professionals who help those getting through divorce or after the divorce process is finished. And this week we've got the fun stuff. This one is really nice. I'm here with Kristina Hughes. And Kristina is a luxury travel designer with Travel A Latte. And we've been getting some great information this week. So if you haven't listened to day one or day two, go back, listen to those episodes because Kristina shared some great tips and some great information on traveling solo or with kids. And, it really can help you all along the way. All right, Kristina, you're back for day number 3. How do we feel the week is going?
Great. Thanks.
That's good. The kids are doing all right.
Yes. Yep. They are staying busy.
There we go. Yeah. Better busy than in the things it's when they get quiet, you have to go hunt them down. It's like,
it's true.
Oh, goodness. So I was looking at today's questions and these are actually really good. We're kind of looking at traveling solo again. So kind of just by ourselves. And, when we travel after divorce, it might drum up some feelings of anxiety and traveling alone. And, the number one question that comes to my mind and other people's mind is it safe to travel alone? Is it safe to take a tour group? Is it safe to visit certain parts of the world, if you will? So I think we'll start today with, what are your thoughts on traveling alone and keeping safety in mind?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that, again, it's a leap of faith when you're going to travel and you're doing something that you maybe have not. So if you've never traveled alone, it's a different feeling. I will say I took a trip myself for work for the first time. It's kind of work and pleasure for a 5-day trip, and it was a different experience. Just being at the airport and things. I'm like, okay, it's just me. Like, I'll figure this out. But it was good. It was really good. Just unplug and to kind of know that confidence of like, I know what to do. Like, I can figure this out and I can do it. And of course, you can use a travel advisor to help you and to be that partner that can kind of help plan as well as help assist with any issues along the way. So I obviously recommend that. But, I think that making sure that you're going to, a place that is safe is important, especially by yourself. Do the research, make sure that where you're going is safe. You don't want to just randomly pick an Airbnb on the south side of Chicago and just be like, yeah, that's where I'm going to go. It's cheap. I'm going to stay there, right? Like you're like, you have to know the areas. The good thing about Europe travel, which is what I specialize in, is that Europe is a very safe place to go. So there may be pickpocketing and things that, we can prepare for, but as far as safety, you're in good hands in Europe. So I always say the story about when I lived in Germany for a year and a half, and the walk, I didn't have a car. So I would take the train downtown. I'd have dinner with friends and I would hop on the train to come home. And the 5-minute walk from the train to my home was through a dark park with no street lamps or anything. And I walked through a dark park by myself, completely fine, because I'm like, there's nobody here that's going to hurt me, So you just have to know, though. You have to know where you're going and not put yourself into positions where, you're going to be in an unsafe position. So, using your resources, knowing your gut feeling, when you are traveling, and just making sure, that you're making wise choices. So.
Exactly. And so a lot of it, you're going to know a little bit ahead of time, as far as your destination and being able to research all that, which is great. But that was some really good tips there. Now, it also may have been a while since we've traveled on a trip. So when it comes to, say, packing by yourself, is there a little bit different, strategy you might use as far as traveling, as far as plane versus checked in, or maybe can you get everything in one of those little travel, packet, luggage pieces that you can take on the plane?
Yeah, so I when I traveled myself, it was fantastic because I'm used to traveling with 2 kids and carrying all their stuff. And actually, at one point, I took the flight from the U.S. to Germany, back to Germany. It was 2 connections with 2 kids, and there were 45-minute connections in between,
Oh, wow.
which I did not realize at the time. I've learned a lot before becoming a travel advisor. But we were literally, I'm holding a 3-year-old and 3 bags, and having the 5-year-old. We're all running to get to the next plane, luckily making it in time. And we did that twice. So, I'm
Wow.
used to traveling with kids, and even, traveling like that was wild. But, traveling by yourself, yes, you can pack a backpack to have kind of your main things that you want to, activities and things like that. And then you can just kind of have a carry-on with you, depending how long you're going. But you can just have a carry-on as well. And you don't have to pay for the check bag. You can just hop on the plane on and off. You don't have to wait for your bag. So I think it's definitely a little bit easier packing when you're traveling solo.
Exactly. Now, actually, one of the follow-up questions to that is probably very simple, but I'm always concerned, like, what if I forget something? And, I'm sure you've got, a tip or two, that you can share as far as like, okay, what if you actually did forget something?
Have the main things, have your wallet or your passport and your phone, have those things. As long as you got those, I think you're good. Charger, so yes, there are some must have things just to kind of, give you that security. I always think of that as I'm leaving. I'm like, okay, I have the main things. Anything else you can get while you're there. So even in Europe, I mean, there are stores in Europe, believe it or not. People go to the drugstore and buy toothpaste, right? So you have options to get the things that you don't need or that you've forgotten. So. And I will say too, I have some experience of family coming to visit in Germany, and their luggage was lost, and everything in their luggage wasn't there for 3 to 4 days, and luckily they packed some essentials in their carry-on, which I always recommend. And then we hopped into a Primark store, got some good priced nice looking clothes to kind of last, or did some laundry, or whatever we could to help them get by. And they were like, we don't even need our bags at this point. Like, what did we even pack in there? Like, we can get by. Like, it's so funny. When you go to think about what you're packing, sometimes I feel like we overpack. Like, oh, this outfit that I haven't worn in 10 years, I need that for this trip. Like, this is the perfect time to wear it. So I just think sometimes we overthink it, but.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good point, though, too, is I think keeping things simple. You don't always have to complicate stuff. You can't plan for everything. But the reality is, if you plan for most of it, then, like you said, you can pick up these little odds and ends wherever you happen to be at.
Yeah.
So wow, that was good stuff. And that's going to wrap up day 3 of 5 here. Once again, if you haven't listened to the other episodes, please go back and check them out. They have different questions, and Kristina offers some fabulous advice and tips. And we would like to thank you for joining us today on this episode of Breaking Ties, the interview series. Should you have any questions for Kristina, her contact information is going to be in the description. You can reach out to her, give her a call, shoot her an email. Remember, divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Hello, and welcome to the 4th day of the Breaking Ties interview series this week. It's been a fun week here with Kristina Hughes from Travel A Latte, where she is a luxury travel designer. I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst professional. And during this whole week, we have been talking with Kristina about traveling, whether with kids, without kids, and just some great information that she has shared. And I hope you go back and check out those other episodes if you're not keeping up with us right now. So how are you today, Kristina?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I mean, the weather's not too bad. It's hanging in there. Hopefully we can have some nice sunshine here. And then, I think less about traveling, actually, if it's sunny. Oh, goodness. So now, all week we've been talking about traveling solo and traveling with kids. So we've been, kind of been bouncing back and forth between the days. And today we're on a kid day. And I want to, pick your brain a little bit here. When we are traveling with kids and we're sitting at the airport or we're between activities at our destination, what can parents do to keep their kids entertained and really not driving us crazy while we're on vacation?
Well, yes, traveling with kids is not easy. I know there's like the reels that are going around that are like, okay, well, I'm just going on vacation, but I'm still parenting. Like you don't get that break, right? So there are some options. You can definitely get that break. If you go to, say, an all-inclusive or a cruise where there's kids club, that could be a really good option, because then you have that time as a family, but you also have the time where kids can just go play with other kids and just be involved and do what they want to do. And you can just have that moment of, okay, let me just relax. Let me just, have that break, which I think parents do need that break. So that's definitely an option. But I definitely always recommend, and we kind of talked on this a little bit, but I don't want to repeat if you've already been listening, but having in your backpack, different things, activities for kids to do, whether that be stickers, whether that be drawing, whether that be, their favorite toys, I'm particular about screen time with my kids. So for me, I'm not one to hand them a tablet or phone and just be like, here you go. But it kind of got to the point when we were traveling every weekend, especially on flights, and especially having a toddler who liked to scream on the flights. It definitely got to the point where the airplane became tablet time. And so they looked forward to that because they didn't get their tablet any other time other than on the plane. So we would get checked in and they'd sit and they're like, tablet. And I'm like, here you are. And then I could just sit and I could read a book or I could relax. And I think everybody has their own opinions on that. So not judging whatsoever, however you do it. But I like having a mixture of different things to entertain the kids and to keep them occupied, so that you can have a break. But there is times that they're going to want to be on their electronics and you're going to want them on their electronics.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of traveling that you have to accept is that you're not always going to be entertained or entertaining someone. And you do actually really do need a little downtime, especially if you are traveling with kids, because they may need a nap or they may need recharge, which also allows you to recharge as well. But yeah, it's never going to be nonstop, here we go kind of thing. It's, still going to have that parenting time. You're never really off duty when you bring your kids along.
Yes. And I will say, so my daughter was 1.5 years when we moved abroad and we're traveling a lot, all the time. And it became her nap time by putting her in the carrier. And she would just she got a pacifier and she laid her head down. She took a nap while we were exploring. So yeah, you do have to fit in that nap time because a 1.5-year-old without a nap is not a great idea. So yeah, knowing knowing that their routine is going to be off, I think, is another tip that I would recommend for parents, is that you're not going to make it, 100% perfect. When I'm planning trips for other clients that have kids, if their kid is on a strict schedule, that is something we talk about. You're going to know that schedule can change and your child will adapt to that. But it is something that sometimes is a little nerve wracking. But yes, I think, having the activities. And then obviously when you're traveling and when you're in that new place, so say you're in Europe and you're walking around a new city, a couple tips that I have, if it's okay. Is for one, when you're planning the itinerary, make sure that you're planning something fun for the kids into the itinerary. So I think that, having a kids, I think any city, there's going to be fun things to do, but knowing that, you want to see and do X, Y, and Z, maybe see this building or see this, this beach or this, whatever. And just planning in, hey, there's this children's museum that's in the city. Let's go there for a couple hours, just to have that be an exciting thing for the kids because they may not be as interested in the architecture, things like that. But I mean, playgrounds anywhere is something. I have clients that are expats in Germany that I'm planning multiple trips for, and we look up ahead of time playgrounds so that they know, by their hotel, there's this playground that they can take their kids to unwind and relax. And so I just think that it's important to build in time for kids to be kids when you're traveling.
Right. No, that's a fantastic point. And one of the things that came to my mind was bring your babysitter with you. So maybe grandpa and grandma come along on your trip.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
We have done that. Yes, we have totally done that. And it is, multi-generational family travel is something that is, a popular thing. It's growing more and more popular, I think, since the pandemic, really, that people are like, yeah, let's travel with our families. Everyone wants to see and do and explore. And especially when you're going to Europe, you have that assistance, that help from each other. So, the parents are being helped by the grandparents and vice versa. And the kids are, having a great time having multiple people. But yeah, I think having that time, that help would definitely be helpful, or a friend. Another good option is to, find a friend and their kids. So I had done that when in Europe. So two other of my friends, we decided to take each of our two kids and go to Brussels for the weekend. And we made waffles and we explored and we went to, a lot of fun different places that the kids just had fun playing together. And it was, when you go with more kids and more families, then the kids can kind of entertain themselves while you have some time to catch up with, your friends as well. So.
Yeah. Wow. And that is really cool information. A lot of people don't necessarily think about the traveling with someone else or even another family member kind of thing, but it can really ease some of that anxiety from the kids as well, because they've got somebody there they know and they can play with and things like that. So
Yeah.
back to, the routine a little bit, of just being around other familiar people.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, this is the end of our 4th day. So this has been a great week so far. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, go back, listen to them. Kristina's shared some fantastic traveling advice, and you're going to want to join us tomorrow because she's back for one more day. And we're going to go over, some last questions for you guys. We want to thank you for joining us today on the Breaking Ties interview series. And should you have any questions for Kristina, I'm going to have her contact information in the description. You can reach out to her and ask. She's happy to do whatever she can for you. Just remember that divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. See you tomorrow. Take care. Hello and welcome back to our 5th and final day of our week-long Breaking Ties interview series, where we've been talking with Kristina, a travel designer on the luxury side. And the main point of this week is really to get some good information from whoever is our guest. And we've gotten that this week. It's been fantastic. I've learned a few things here and there on the travel side of things that I wasn't even familiar with. So if you haven't gone back and listened to the rest of the week, you're going to want to do so, because Kristina shared some fantastic information. Now, I'm your host, Mike Fulkerson, financial advisor and certified divorce financial analyst. And Kristina is with Travel A Latte. And being with Travel A Latte, Kristina, what does that allow you to do for those looking to get into the travel side of things?
Yeah, so I'm a travel designer. It can be a travel advisor, agent, is what kind of people think about it. But I'm a designer because I'm designing customized itineraries and kind of being kind of a one-on-one with other people. More, I try to go a step above than just what a travel agent kind of used to be. It's just, here you go. I've created it. These are your options. Good luck, So I like to have it be a personalized approach. But yes, Travel A Latte. I love to travel and I love to help other people travel. And I know one question we get, and then you mentioned luxury travel, is what is luxury travel? And, that doesn't mean that I only help people that need a 5-star, luxury, expensive vacation. I know finances can be an issue, especially, post-divorce. But I consider luxury as somebody who is doing a lot of the work. So I also know that time is a big issue, post-divorce. If you're, especially if you're the one taking care of children and you're working and, regardless, of the situation, it's, we only have so much time. So having a travel advisor that can help, with the planning and with the booking and all of that can definitely be helpful. So that's how I help people by doing that. And I do work with any budget. So it's, not only the expensive trips. But.
Right, exactly. Because you are correct. After a divorce, the finances can be a little unsettled and finding some footing and stuff as far as, going on a trip might seem a little daunting. And I think it's great how you're much more hands-on and involved than, say, just a traditional travel agent might be, if you will. You're there for the whole duration of the trip. You want them to be successful, which is great. Now, this week, you've talked a lot about traveling abroad and stuff, and how you've lived overseas. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool if you shared with us some of the differences of traveling internationally as opposed to here in the States.
Yeah, so I've actually been to more countries than states, which I'm working on. I'm working on trying to see more of the U.S. And but also ready to go back, overseas at any moment. But so I lived in Germany for a year and a half, traveled to 30 countries in that time, traveled multiple places because when you're right there in Europe, it's so easy to get to other locations. A couple hours away, you're in Belgium, and a couple hours away, you're in the Netherlands. A quick flight away, you're in Italy. I mean, they're so easy to get around. So I do recommend international travel. I am a specialist in European travel, and helping fit those pieces together, how to travel to the different places, where to go. I mean, when we moved there, I didn't know, a lot of the countries I didn't know about. So I think European travel especially is just, there's so many cultures, so much differences, so much beauty, great activities for kids and adults. I mean, there's just something for everyone. The food is fantastic. I mean, it's wonderful. Once you go, I tell my first timers, just so you know, you're going to go and you're going to love it and you're going to want to go back and go somewhere else. And, so, warning, but, yeah, I mean, it is just, it's very different. And I think that's what draws people there. And I know that I have a desire to go to Asia and to South America. Those are, some future trips that we're trying to plan as well. So there's just so much to see and do kind of outside of your norm.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's great. And there are differences, but a lot of times people might be apprehensive about the differences, but really, you want to embrace that and just go with it and go, hey, let's go see what it's like someplace else outside the borders. So I think it's a really great idea. I've been Cancun a couple times. I loved it. The all inclusive. It was just great for just completely unwinding, kind of situation. But I would like to get to Europe, and I would like to see a lot of countries over there as well in the future. So, well, we've had a great week with you. I really want to leave you a little bit of spot here for some final thoughts that you'd like to leave everyone with.
yeah. So, I mean, I didn't mean to scare you by saying everything's different in Europe, because there are a lot of English speaking places. And obviously working with someone who is familiar with the different countries is helpful. Hello.
Yeah.
I can be that person, but, yeah. So I think, it's not as scary as you think it is going to be, as long as you have the right tools. But yeah, travel is something that really, it opens up so much of our minds, to what the world is around us. There's so much to this world, to see and do, and so many cultures and so many differences. I mean, we've been to Istanbul, to Egypt, and those two really stand out as like just a totally different culture than what we're used to. The call to prayer, the mosques, and things like that. I mean, that's not what I'm used to here in Illinois. So, there's just so much more to the world, so many differences. And I think that's important to see for yourself, if you haven't, and also to share with kids. I think that traveling with kids outside of the country, showing them the world around them is so important. And that's something that, our kids, they know all these different languages. They know all these different ways of getting around, that some people train, or, I lived in Europe and did not have a car. I had a bike that the kids rode in the front of this, seat in the bike. And that was our car. And that was normal to them. In that time. And now I'm like, no, we have a car, we can't do that to the grocery store here, but we could there. And so, I mean, there's just so many differences, and I think that's good. And I also think just having that time to unplug, travel is expensive. I understand that. And I understand that can come in the way, but prioritizing it, I think is 100% necessary, especially when kids are young and going into the, early teen years and into the teen years. I think that time is really important, just that to have that one-on-one time to unplug, to spend with each other. and just to see the world. We in America tend to have the thought that we have to wait till retirement to travel and to see the world. And I think that it's more important to travel before retirement, because we don't know, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know, what our health is going to be. And so I think it's important to do that. And the memories that you have from travel are going to be totally, ingrained in your mind, I feel like, even more than the day to day. So.
Right, exactly. And I think that goes right along the lines, as divorced parent myself, it's the memories. You're trying to create new memories. You're not trying to erase old ones, but you're just trying to add to the next chapter of everybody's lives who are moving on from the divorce standpoint. So whether you're divorced or not, doesn't really matter. The memories are still going to be there. I still remember them as a kid, when I was a kid. So I think that's stuff that kind of sticks with, even your kids, or even just you or your friends who you hang out with. The whole, you remember the time when.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, goodness. So I tell you what, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast, Kristina. The information you shared has been nothing short of fabulous. And if anyone, is looking for a travel designer, Kristina is a great person, and she's going to treat you well. So don't hesitate to reach out to her. Contact information's in the description. This is actually the end of our 5-day week. How do you feel it went?
Good. I hope I was able to share a lot of tips with you. So.
Absolutely. It was great. Yeah, people are going to love it. I appreciate it. And if you haven't seen the previous days' episodes, go back, listen to them. We talk about different topics each day. Some days are kids, some days are solo travel. Go back, find the information. You're gonna learn something from that. And that's going to conclude this episode and week of Breaking Ties interview series. If you need anything, Kristina's here for you. I'm here for you. Divorce is not the end of your story. It is the start of your next great chapter. And happy travels.